Hello, I'm John Phillip and pleased to welcome you to the webinar that we're running from ALPS this year on using Connect Interactive for your post-16 results analysis in the somewhat unusual examination year of 2020. In the webinar, I'm going to be looking first of all at the 2020 national results, both in England and Wales, because of course all schools in Wales use ALPS for post-16 analysis and increasing numbers at Key Stage 4 as well. I'm going to be showing you how to use the tools and features in Connect Interactive to best effect when analysing your results, both against your historic results and, perhaps equally importantly, when comparing your 2020 results against the other monitoring grade points that you uploaded to Connect in 2019-20. And I'm guessing, although I won't be saying so much about this, a lot of what I'm going to try to show you when doing the latter is enabling you to see perhaps how you might be able to use Connect even more effectively when monitoring your current cohorts post-16 during 2020-21. I won't be doing an awful lot of basic explanation of ALPS methodology today. There's a whole range of other webinars available from the ALPS website, and I'll put something up about that later. So if you need more detailed methodology, for example, or indeed if you're interested in our ALPS Champions program to drive ALPS and the use of ALPS even better in your school, then do check our website for the other webinars that we're running. I'm going to begin with some results analysis looking at the national picture in both England and Wales. And what a shock we had on the 13th of August. It seems a long time ago now, though it's only a couple of weeks, but the shock and horror in many schools. One of the schools I work with in Birmingham contacted me actually the day before to confidentially say, we're looking at 52% of our grades going down. This is an Ofsted outstanding school, by the way, and one that's lowest performance tables value added in the previous 3 years was plus 0.22. The other two were significantly higher than that. And they were looking at something around 0, calculating it this year, and also ALPS grades that were bang down the middle of the line at grade 5 as well. Grades they'd not achieved in the previous 3 years in the vast majority of cases. So, and they're just one school, and all over the country there was that furore of what on earth is going on here. And whilst we were told to begin with how robust and dependable the results were, thankfully it was literally days before those results were replaced by the centre assessed grades, which was the only way, I believe, of playing fair with the cohort, the lockdown cohort of 2020. Moving on, tabulating the results as best I can, because of course the JCQ files are still not out, but Ofqual and Qualification Wales have put a lot of stuff out, and we can see that there was the rise that I suspect was really what Ofqual, the government, etc., didn't want to see. The rise in results very much did happen once they switched to awarding the centre assessed grades. So looking at A star, both in England and Wales, it looks like a hike of about 6%. By the time it's A star A, it's up 11%, 12%, and so forth. And even at A star to E, it meant that even fewer young people across the countries actually didn't get a grade this year. AS may be of less interest to most English schools, as not so many English schools are using AS anymore, but those results also went up. And they're obviously very important in Welsh schools because the AS in Wales still counts for 40% of the A-level grades, except for this summer, when they decided that the calculated results and then the centre assessed grades could not play that part. but it's still an important driver of who stays on in Wales into year 13, as it used to be in England. And you can see as well that results at A went up about 7% once the centre assessed grades were awarded, and also at A star to E. So bucking the usual trend at AS, again, a very small percentage of the national cohort in Wales failed their AS. I can't give you the same detail on BTEC, which dragged its heels in terms of the results. They should all be out by now, but they're not tabulated and available to those who do not have logins on the Pearson website as things stand. So, what are the consequences for you of all this? Well, a measure of great delight, I'd imagine, on results day, on GCSE results day, and of course retrospectively, once the awarded grades were replaced by the centre assessed grades, relief that your candidates, many of whom perhaps had been downgraded, had now got the results that you believed were most likely. But going to my top bullet point, as they rose dramatically, as we've just seen nationally, it's very likely that's been mirrored in your school or college. And it's quite likely, therefore, that you might be looking in your school and college at ALPS analysis that's even redder than it's been in the past, or less blue than it's been in the past. And I would say this at this point, if you've done that, then challenge the teachers to replicate that in the year ahead. I know there's still a lot of things to be decided, both about the timing of next summer's exams, and even, as I was reading the other day from Robert Halfian, whether or not they ought to happen at all. But challenging your teachers to pick up that ball and run with it and replicate the sort of ALPS value added that you were able to achieve with the young people achieving the grades that they thought were most likely for the young people in 2020 would be a great thing to do. If you use the AS, and certainly here I'm talking to all the schools and colleges in Wales, it's very likely that you've got a bigger year 13 cohort than you've had in the past, with a much lower dropout rate than you've perhaps experienced in the usual years from AS to A2. And finally, of course, although this is not really results analysis today, you're probably all looking at a bigger year 12 cohort in your schools based on the GCSE results that came out the following week. So, over now to a discussion, first of all, about using the tools and features in Connect to best effect. Not going to take long, and I'll be quickly moving on from this into the actual demonstration. And I'm sure you all will know this unless you're very new to ALPS, but Connect can easily and seamlessly take you from a whole school or college analysis to each subject, to each teaching set, to student groups, to individual students, and as long as you've got the tutors in to your Connect Interactive, then down to tutor groups as well. And I'll demonstrate all of that as we're going along. And here, just a few ideas, whether it's results analysis or whether it's in-year analysis, of the kinds of very helpful questions that you can ask when you're looking at the data to try to unpick what to do next to make student progress, student outcomes, and student achievement really rocket through the roof in the year ahead. What we're focusing on today, however, is really comparing results with the previous 3 years' results and comparing results with monitoring grade points during the previous academic year. And I'm going to be using the phrase MPZ, which is short for monitoring point 0, which is the grade point that many schools use at the very start of year 13. In Wales, it's based on the AS grades that the young people got in year 12. Those who are continuing to A level, if they get those same grades in the year ahead at A level, what will the value added be? In England, in most schools, of course, it's based on teacher assessment at the end of year 12. And again, if they get the same grades teachers believe they would, having taught them throughout year 12, except this year, then what would the value added be like? And of course, this is really just a school or college improvement tool. It's just giving you a ballpark to start from to drive some strategic priorities to make the picture evolve into an even brighter and redder, of course, picture as the year progresses. And obviously there'll be mock grade points and predicted grade points in most people's data as well. A very, very basic reminder here. I did say I wouldn't have time today to do much of the basics, but just to be certain of the essentials, there are 9 ALPS grades, 1 to 9. 1 to 3 are all outstanding. They at very least get you into the top 25% for value added, and they turn red because Kevin Conway, when he invented ALPS as a system for improving student progress in Greenhead College in Huddersfield, devised it all around thermometers. He was a physicist himself, and the better the progress, the nearer you got to boiling point, the nearer you got to being outstandingly red hot. If you're in the black, you're in the middle 3 grades. Grade 5 is, let's call it nationally average, because that's what it is. And if you drop into the blue, you're slipping into grades 7 to 9, and at the very least, you're in the lowest 25% in whatever measure that might be, whether it's a subject, whether it's the whole school or college, whether it's the progress of a student group, etc. A couple of bits of maths, because you don't need much to actually get ALPS, but a score of 1.00 anywhere in an ALPS analysis means that on average, the minimum expected grades set at the top 25%, the 75th percentile, that they've been achieved. 0.2 difference in any direction is a grade per student at either A and AS. It's slightly more complicated at BTEC. So a score of 0.8 in an A-level analysis means on average each student was a grade below their minimum expected grade, or MEG, whereas, and it does happen, a score of 1.20 means on average each student exceeded their MEG by a grade. Red's hot, blue's not, and let's move on. I'm now going to switch to demonstrating Connect, so I'm going to shut down my webcam for the time being so that you can just concentrate on Connect and get rid of my visage. And as you can see there, I'm going to try to do as much of everything as I can, but I'm certainly going to focus on the more recent developments that were released during lockdown to actually help schools and colleges with sorting out what their centre assessed grades would be, with us having no idea at that point that they were going to turn into the results. So I'm now going to come out of the slideshow and I'm going to switch us into ALPS Connect and tell you what I've got for you to be looking at in Connect today. First of all, I'm going to look here at the grade point selector, because at the moment, to begin with, I just want to show you this year's results as achieved when the centre assessed grades were awarded through in comparison to the 3 previous years. So I'm clicking OK to confirm that that is what I want. And I'm going to take you first to the least interactive and perhaps therefore least interesting part of Connect Interactive, the strategic analysis. But I do want to make sure you all know how to do these tricks. And I'm starting here with an ALPS template. I'm going to request an A-level report. I don't at the minute particularly want to edit it. I just want to see the basic report. And having created it, I either now, because you can see I've got lots and lots of pages here that basically cover the strategic report. I could dip into one or two. In fact, I think I will. I'm going to dip into raw results to see what they look like, because of course they're going to compare the same with what I've actually uploaded from my management system. And I've achieved nearly 60% A star to B this year, nearly 90% A star to C. My cohort's average prior attainment using the English system, because this is High Spirits and Academy is a made-up English school. My apologies to schools in Wales. So I've got a fairly bright bunch of young people who've taken A-level this year, but they have done very, very well. I'm going to move to one that we don't see so much in other areas of Connect. This is the banded by prior attainment summary. And I'm just going to have a look at this one, points per subject. I'm interested in this actually because over the previous 3 years, my students with the highest prior attainment at GCSE, it's been a bit mixed, but they haven't perhaps made the progress of some of the others. And actually, that's been replicated in the centre assessed grades that we have submitted, but maybe as a pointer, both for me to be looking for this when we look at individual subjects and so forth, but also perhaps as a strategic priority still for the school for the year ahead. Well, if this were results day, I would either want to print this report, turn it into a PDF. That is really simple to do. You click and it whirs round for a second, and at the bottom of the screen, it then appears, and bingo, you've got your ALPS summary report, which I'm now actually going to close down because literally I'm just demonstrating how to do it. On the other hand, you can save it and then share it. So having run it, save it, and then go to share and share it with all your other users in your school of Connect Interactive. However, I did say this was the least interesting part and one that is probably very familiar to all of you. So I'm going to discard that report now rather than saving or sharing it. And I'm going to move away from strategic analysis to subject analysis. And here we go. So here we can see, I'm going to hide Key Stage 4 actually because the school also use ALPS at Key Stage 4. So we can just see the A levels and indeed the BTECs that the school has got results for in 2019-20. And you can see a picture that is fairly similar with past years. So I think, like lots of you, before submitting and uploading to the exam boards your centre assessed grades in the middle of lockdown, this school has made a really genuine attempt to make sure that their overall results in each subject look consistent with the previous 3 years. Well, why did they do that? Well, because we were all told that if they didn't, that was going to be one of the reasons why they might get pulled down. That, of course, may not have turned out to be the truth, but that was what we were all told. So, for example, English Lit has been submitted with a value-added grade, not that the boards would have known that, but with a value-added grade of a 7 because it's been not one of the school's finest performers, perhaps, over the past 3 years. Equally, Extended Certificate in Applied Science has been submitted with perhaps lower results. So now I'm going to show you, I think, teaching sets next to check if you've got teaching sets, which of course big colleges and big sixth forms will have, and you would all have at Key Stage 4, if you go to teaching sets, it will quickly bring up every single teaching set. It opens up another column with average prior attainment as well, and enables you to look and see whether there's any subject where actually in the centre assessed grades you submitted, there were significant differences in value added in terms of the sets. And I'm seeing one immediately, which is chemistry here. And I think I'll have a good old look at that when we switch from looking just at results in comparison to historic results and look at that over the course of the academic year to see where that came from. But good little tool to enable you to very quickly start to look for where there might be inconsistencies in the teaching of the individual subject courses. I'm also going to do a few comparisons with you. Firstly, because we've just seen, looking at the strategic analysis, that there's a bit of a problem perhaps. We're going to have a look at high, middle and low prior attainment. I'm going to untick unknown so that I'm just looking at those three categories. I'm going to apply the comparison, and then I'm going to wait for a minute because there's a bit of cooking goes on behind this one, and it takes a bit of time, and the nervous amongst the presenters might actually begin to worry it's never going to cook at all. But I assure you it shall, and it will be showing you some quite interesting analysis in a moment or two when it does. It'll enable us to identify exactly where this is going on. If we tick show all students in one table, it will remove the 3 years of previous results and just break down this summer's results into those categories, as you can see here. And if I sort by grade here for the higher prior attainment students, you can immediately see that here we've got some red hot subjects at the top, only one of which was sizable, economics. Not so many blue subjects, but an awful lot of the bigger cohort subjects and some others around grade 5, maybe a few a bit higher, but perhaps not quite where going forward we would really like the achievement to be, particularly in comparison to the middle progress and indeed to the low progress as well. That's particularly interesting perhaps to see which courses have coped extremely well with the students of low prior attainment. And to be honest, I do think knowing that is a real boost for any school that's being inclusive in terms of its entry into the sixth form. You do need to know where those young people will flourish and where they might not. So that's high, middle and low. I'm going to get rid of that now and reset and just dip into a couple of others. I'm going to compare next by gender and apply that comparison. And again, we'll have to show all students in one table. And I'm going to sort by male grade. You can see the boys have done very, very well in many, many subjects. Sort by female grade, and so are they. So actually, you know, in general, I'm looking at a very, very positive picture. But one subject is now standing out to me, and it's sociology. The girls have got a grade 2, the boys a grade 6, and if you look at the ALPS scores, 1.21 to 1.01 is exactly 0.2. So on average, the 13 boys have made a grade's less progress when assessed by their teachers and awarded those centre assessed grades than the girls in 2020. And again, I think we'll have a more careful look at that when we look at the in-year grading too. So let's have a look at an individual subject now. And I'm going to get rid of the gender split first, I think. So we've got everything back. And I'm going to sort by entries and get the biggest subjects up to the top. Now, why am I doing this? Not just because these have a big impact on your value added, because they assuredly do in comparison to these subjects, but most importantly, they have a massive impact on student destinations. They really, really do drive the life chances and life opportunities of large percentages of your cohorts. So I'm going to click into two up here that are not red hot. One's psychology, and I'm going to pull the thermometer as you would normally do in a what if and a how do I, and find that actually psychology was 5 students away from getting the ALPS grade 3 when they assigned those centre assessed grades. Now, in year, of course, you'd flip to students. You might want to sort by prior attainment to bring those with highest prior attainment up to the top. Having done this, I can immediately see that although many of the students had minimum expected grades up here, and some of them had been assigned personalised targets that were A star, no A stars were actually submitted as centre assessed grades. And I'm not going to do a what if here, because clearly doing a what if on grades that were assigned by the teachers as the most likely is an unlikely scenario, but it is what you would do in year to try to identify who was perhaps got the potential to make stronger progress going forward. I'm going to nip back, however, to quickly also, as I said, look at maths, the other big subject near the top, have a flip to their students, switch and have a look at their prior attainment, and actually revealed again here that maths has awarded no A stars at all when submitting the centre assessed grades. Now, all of this that we're looking at in maths and psychology assuredly also filters into what we looked at the beginning in the banded by ability analysis and a strategic overview. So again, some food for thought for the year ahead about how to enable more students to access perhaps the very top A-level grade. I'm finally in this area going to look at student analysis before switching to the in-year evaluation. And I'm going to put a comparison filter on here, and it's going to be student performance groups, one that I would imagine you are all pretty familiar with, but it's still a very good way of breaking down your whole student cohort. And I'm going to apply that comparison. And it brings up all of these categories like above target in all subjects, on or above in all, below in 2, below in any. And if we just have a quick flip through, we can see that 44 students were above in all. A really pleasing 112 students were either on or above. Red is on or above. If there's a pink, and I'll go down because assuredly there will be somewhere, it's a pink, it's where actually the MEG was a split grade and they've achieved the lower of the 2 grades, but still done really, really well. Below target in all even though these were the most likely grades submitted by the teachers, there's 36 students who are either black, 1 grade below MEG, or blue, at least 2 grades below MEG in this cohort. And you can also, of course, which is, I think, something we would all be doing, you can look out for patterns of subjects that maybe dominate any of these filtered cohorts. And it doesn't take a genius to begin to see that maths and the 3 sciences are coming along strong, far stronger than perhaps we would want in this category. To narrow the field down, you can pull any subject. I've randomly chosen biology there, and it literally leaves you just with the biologists in each of the categories. And you can see that actually, in some cases, biology's done very well by the students. In some cases, they've done less well. In some cases, the underachievement is mirrored by underachieving grades in the other subjects taken by the same student. To remove that filter, you pull it back here into the blue, and my internet is having a few problems today, so I'm going to have to refresh having done that. It'll only take a moment and we will get back, I assure you. And I'm going to have to, because it will have lost it, bring the comparison back on, and that will take us a moment. And I'm going to go finally here to below in any subject, which again, I think is always interesting. There's a lot of students in this category. Well, that's not too surprising, because to duck down in one is pretty common. And what's interesting here, I think, is trying to see, are there patterns that will enable us to perhaps get young people better onto courses in the future? Can we see courses where it can't really be explained because there's too many of them, other than we need to find perhaps some different solutions for some of our young people. These young people have still done blindingly well in the majority, and I'm not going to go any further than this, but looking for those interesting patterns is, I think, very, very worthwhile. Now, I'm going to reset that and come back out of it. I'm going to flip actually to subject analysis, not to do anything with it for the time being, but I will want to return to this before the end. I'm going to move us now to a second cut of Connect that I've got up and ready, just to save a bit of time, and I'll show you what I've got here. I've got the results again, but I've got monitoring point 2, which was submitted around February. It was predicted grades. I've got their mocks, which took place straight after Christmas. And I've got their MPZ, the grades the teacher thought they were going to achieve based on year 12 work, or remember in Wales, their AS grades. And I've got those 4 grade points for us to look at. Now here, I'm going to, in the main, do different stuff for obvious reasons. No point showing you the same things that work best in terms of in-year analysis. And I'm going back to subject analysis to begin with, and then going to go to monitoring accuracy to show you how these two work most effectively when looking back from results over the course of the year. So, what are we seeing now? Well, we can see that some courses began the year feeling, based on year 12, that things were not going to be particularly good. We can see, as is typical in so many schools, to the point where it makes me sometimes worry that the mocks that we set are really, in many cases, such a poor indicator of likely outcomes. And thank goodness Williamson never got his way with trying to say only appeals could be made on the calculated results based on mock grades. What a nonsense that was. And but here we can see lots of blue for the mocks, and I'm sure that's mirrored in many of your schools. But the predictions in the main, not exclusively, because sociology still felt things were going to be poor, things were much better actually in terms of MP2 than they had been at the beginning of the year in many subjects, and indeed certainly better than the young people had achieved in the mocks, even if some cases it's only a bit marginal. Then we've got the calculated grades that turned into the results, and we've already noted, by the way, although you can see that actually English Lit were not confident throughout the year that the young people were going to do very well, but they did dip their horns in a bit at the end and perhaps replicated, and I'm just going to nip back just to remind you, replicated the underachievement that was seen the previous year, as indeed did applied science. I'm going to pick a subject now, and I'm going to pick one that's interesting me here, because chemistry began the year based on year 12 with thinking they were going to be a fairly strong grade 4. The kids then did very well in the mocks and were then awarded predicted grades that went home in February that were higher. And then chemistry, when assessing centre assessed grades, pulled things back from the high point of February. So what's been going on? There's the overview page, and I'm not going to dwell on that all that long, but I did say that I would actually look at the teaching sets. They've got the teachers in here as well. I'll just say this, as I've said many times before, you do not need the teachers in if you've got the teaching sets, if there's more than one teacher per set, for example. But we can see that actually over the year, the teaching sets had that different value added throughout the year. So it wasn't just as a consequence of the centre assessed grades that the students in this set made less progress than this set. And there's something else interestingly going on here as well. There's the average prior attainment of the set with the lower progress, and there's the average prior attainment of the set with the higher progress. Again, it's going back in my head to we need to do something in this fictitious school about the achievement of the high prior attaining GCSE students. Not why I'm here right now, though. I want to take you to trends which came about in lockdown. Now, chemistry didn't enter MPZ grades. I'm going to move swiftly on from that, but here's their mock grades. Here's their MP2 grades, and you can see that when giving predicted grades, this is one of the schools that likes to give fine grades. The pluses meaning some chance of gaining the higher grade. The equals pretty solid on that grade, and the minuses a fear perhaps that on a poor day the grade might be lower. I'm going to sort by prior attainment to bring the most able up to the top, and I'm going to bring you over to this column here which says grade diff and is isolating the difference between the grade awarded, the centre assessed grade that became the result, and the MP2 predicted grade. And you can see that some of the students with the highest prior attainment, many of whom were in the set with the lower value added, are up near the top here. And actually, if we go down, we can also identify a few students who were allocated a higher centre assessed grade than their MP2. I'm going to sort by the final awarded grades as well, really again just showing you what can be done. And this is another good cut here because of course it brings up the fact that at the grade Bs, all of these grade Bs actually at some points in the year, certainly in MP2, but some of them in the mocks had achieved higher grades. Now, I'm going to click on one again, mainly just to show you how you can go straight from the set to the trends for a student. So I'm picking this young person at random, and I can see their mock grades, their MP2 grades, their 2019-20 results, and I can see that maths in the end moved the young person up from a B- to an A based on centre assessed grades, whereas the other two subjects went in the other direction to very creditable ABB, but you know, it maybe could have been even higher. And it's just to do another one again, just to give you a sense of it. There's another person slightly unluckier here because they've gone down a grade from the MP2 in both biology and chemistry and achieved the same grade in psychology. But we think that these are very, very strong additions to Connect Interactive for your in-year tracking and will be really useful to you in the year ahead, as well as for in analysis. You can, by the way, change your comparison grade point both here but also in the subject. So if I just flip it to the mocks, it's then telling you whether the result was the same as the mock, better than the mock, lower than the mock, and so on and so forth. So that's chemistry. I also think we should go back to subjects and have a little nip into psychology, perhaps. Psychology, and have a look at the trends in psychology. If we do that, we can see, yes, some young people lost their grades in psychology. In fact, this young person went down in psychology from MP2 to the centre assessed grade by 2 grades. And clicking on her name, we can see that she went in the other direction in the other 2 subjects, got A, B, C, and here I'm making this up, but her preferred university offer was A, B, B. Now, I'm not so sure that too many centre assessed grades ducked 2 grades down, but why might psychology have done this? I'm going to flip back to here, and psychology for the previous 2 years had never been red hot. My apologies, they had been in the 3rd year. So is it possible, if we go back to the psychology overview, that psychology decided we'll pull in our horns a bit to prevent this happening to us at standardization? I have a feeling that right across the country, quite a lot of people took that tack. The other one we looked at earlier, maths, is actually rather different because maths began the year very bleakly with a grade 8. The mocks were pretty much a disaster, as they were for some others, but big cohort. By MP2, they were beginning to think, well, actually, we can do a bit better than that. Some of the students can do better, and we think we could aim for a grade 5. And then they did actually put the grades back up again from that to a grade 4, a fair old leap, 0.97 from the beginning of the year, 0.73, well over a whole grade per student. So lots can be done here, you know, analysing trends, diving from a subject's trend to a individual student, and indeed, if you wanted, to an individual teaching set. So for example, let's just pick one, biology, just to show you, same difference. You're in biology, you go to the trends, and there they are for the subject teacher. Sort by grade difference. They're the ones you put down, they're the ones you put up, etc., etc., etc. And obviously, looking back, being able to see their performance in the other points in the year. Finally, in terms of Connect for today, I'm going to go to monitoring accuracy and show you what you can get from this. Here's your results, and here's the most recent monitoring point in February. This column says ALPS score difference. So if we sort by that, it brings to the top the subjects where the difference was largest, which in these cases was universally in a negative direction. So applied science, for example, dropped at the end from saying we think the students are going to be red hot, which of course in 2019 they were not. This was a blue subject, to losing confidence in that and deciding to submit much lower grades. English Lit we've already covered. Physics is interesting here because 0.13, that's over half the grades went down in physics at the end. You can click very easily to take you from monitoring to the individual subject. But for now, I want to do this instead, which is to take you to percentage grade difference. Now at the top, we've got two where there was no difference whatsoever between what was sent home in February and what was submitted. Now, whether that's a good thing or not is a moot point. On the other hand, here's the subject where all the grades went up. Health and social care went from a score of 0.8 to a score of 1.02. And if we just flip back to last year, with these two cohorts, the dip in health and social care was red hot last year, and this, so was the extended cert in health and social care last year and this. So if we go back, you know, they've probably awarded grades that were right. Here, maybe chasing coursework, trying to get young people absolutely finishing work that they're lagging behind with. They maybe sent home grades that were trying to make the young people, let's put it this way, pull their socks up. But we can see a big difference from this in sociology. And I am, through that, going to say we do need to nip back now to have a look at sociology. So what I'm going to do here right now is whip back, nip into subject analysis, nip into sociology, and see what on earth has happened. And you've only got to look at this screen to see the enormity of what happened. Blue, 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 and red. And if we look below, teaching sets that were blue, one that went red, one that went black. So, all taught by the same teacher, by the way. What on earth has gone on here? I think I can work this out for you. In 2019, sociology was red hot with 40 students. It was an extremely narrow grade 4, almost red hot the previous year with 28 students. It was a red hot grade 2 the previous year with 22 students. All year in 2019, the sociology grades, mock grades and predicted grades had been low, had been blue. The sociology department in this fictitious school is the most negatively taught subject in the school. It's the one where the teachers always want to give the young people lower grades in year to encourage them to do more work and then become red hot by the end. And sitting down at centre assessed grade time, of course, the department began to realise, I meant to go to trends there, my apologies, that actually the grades for most students, not all, but the grades for most students that had been submitted to go home in February were not the most likely grades they were going to get. And you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 young people who were awarded in the end a grade 2 grades higher than went home in February. I'm just again to move towards the end, going to click on one here at random who actually had the same the same lift in history as they did in sociology. So I appreciate that I haven't looked at AS today, but it is absolutely exactly the same. I'm going to nip back to round things off to the slideshow now, put it back on from the current slide. I'll bring me back up just to finish us off as well. And here's some last words. Thank you very much for bothering to download and listen to the webinar. I hope it's been useful. There is an evaluation that appears at the end, and if you could complete that, that would be great. I said I would let you know where you could find our full range of webinars, and the web address is there. And if you'd like a video conference strategic review meeting with one of our educational consultants, me or one of my colleagues, based on your actual results, where we go through remotely, but we would be on your Connect and you'd be on your Connect, and we'd be looking for patterns, looking for improvement priorities, looking for things that perhaps you might not have noticed yourselves. Just please do get in touch, and there's a phone number there and an email address, either of which would work. Good luck for all that's going on right now. The full reopening of schools, I really, really hope, having taught for the best part of 40, I really hope that goes well for all of you. Good luck for the year ahead, however the results end up being worked out next year, whenever the exams actually get held. But good luck with all of your results at all levels in the year ahead, and never hesitate to ask ALPS for further support and help. We're very open to any ideas that you have. Thank you very much for being with me today, and bye-bye.